my camera. Sarah was doing something in here, so I turned, but I don't really like this background. Let's see. Okay, we are live. Yeah. I don't know, it's 6:30. What do you think? We should wait a few minutes or just go ahead and do our intro?
We can wait till like 6:32
Okay.
and see. Maybe somebody just logging in, having trouble logging in. But I saw the join hangout all over, so it was easy.
Today was the first time I've been able to do that very quickly. The first time I actually saw it all over, like on the hangout page on the right-hand side. Click, you're in.
Well, you know what? I had more trouble today than normal. I've been sitting down here since really before 6 o'clock trying to get set up. And normally when I set up the event in advance, I can then go to the book group page on Google Plus, and there's like it looks like a little video screen sitting there, and it tells me to hit start, and then that's how I open it up. I couldn't find that to save my life tonight. And I don't know if it's because I added, a bunch of photos to the event. I don't know. I couldn't find it. So I ended up just starting a hangout from scratch. And maybe that's why you all were able to get in so easily.
Well, maybe so, because this is the first time that it's actually been there on the hangout page.
Yeah.
The introductory page. Then on the right-hand side, there was join the hangout. Bam, bam. I'm like, oh, okay. That was never there, ever for me. Usually you have to send a link to me.
And Georgette never has problems getting in, but maybe tonight, because it's different, she's not seeing what she normally sees. Let me just go check over on the page and see if I see any message from her.
Okay.
Because she's consistent,
Has there been anybody new?
No.
No.
Well, there are 10 people on the Facebook page that said they're coming. 6 said maybe. And I have a friend in Africa. His name is Koketso. And he hit me up on the chat around 5:30 to say he was waiting on some kind of notice to get in. So, I don't know. I don't see. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see. It looks like Georgette has been trying to get in. Let me see.
Thank you.
Hey everyone.
Hi. Are you there?
Yeah, I finally got in. Hey.
Okay. Okay, I was just trying to send you a message.
Okay.
'Cause
Yeah,
I,
normally I get a notification on the Google Plus homepage, but this time I had to
yeah,
open up my email, so.
okay, yeah. I had trouble coming in the way that I normally do tonight, and so I had to start a fresh hangout. And but Vanita and Randy were saying that they got in more easily than they normally do.
Okay.
So I was just telling them, that you're the one that always gets in easily.
Well, hey, I guess it was my turn tonight.
Yeah, but we know you're consistent, so I was looking for you.
Well, I appreciate that vote of confidence.
Okay, Randy. Well, it's 6:36. It's six
Okay.
thirty-six. Maybe we should just go on and do this.
Okay. Um, okay, I'll start. Hello, my name is Randie Henderson. I'm an intern and member of Black Women's Blueprint. I'll be moderating tonight. I am moderating remotely from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. And the
Michelle.
book, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
And the book we're reading tonight, the same book we've been reading since July, since what did we start? June 3rd.
June June 3rd.
At the Dark End of the Street by Danielle McGuire. And tonight we are focusing on Chapter 7, Sex and Civil Rights. Sex and Civil Rights.
Okay. And I'm Michelle Odom, another co-host of the book group, along with Randy. And I am wondering if you guys have given any thought to the next book. Um, Randy, we were supposed to come to tonight's meeting with one or two ideas about suggested books for the next session. Did you actually, Randy, did you see the
I'm looking for it now. I got the
list of books?
notification. Did you put it on the Facebook page?
Okay.
Did you put it on the Facebook page?
Um, I think it is. I think it is.
Because I didn't
But
get
it's
the
definitely
notification.
on the. Okay, so you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, though. But
I haven't.
anyway, okay, so we just were joined by someone without a face. Who's that? Joelle. Hi. Did you have trouble getting in? You can't hear us? Okay, well, maybe everyone can just, give us your name, and if you have a book, tell us what it is.
Okay, I'll go. My name is Georgette Moses, and man, it was a hard, it was a hard choice. Man, you had so many good books on there.
Yeah.
Um, so just one, huh? Uh, um,
One or two.
okay. Um, Medical Apartheid: The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present by
Oh,
Harriet A.
I'm dying to
Washington.
read that one.
Really? Really? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And man, is it tough? Oh man, you had such good titles on here. Hmm. And Silencing the Past: Power and the Production of History by, I guess this guy's name, it's French, Michel Rolf Trulot, something like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so those are out of my long list. Those are the two most, the best ones I would like to read for the group.
Great choice. Great choices. Okay. Um, Vanita,
After our discussion last night, I am
who
just,
are you?
yeah, we talked last night about the book list, and I'm just no good. I don't know what happened. I didn't finish even looking at the list, and honestly, it just actually slipped my mind. I think I'm going through something. So I'm not prepared. Shame on me.
Okay.
Where I'm looking for it now
Well,
on the page. I can't find it. I want to take a glimpse at it.
Look it
um,
up.
okay. Well,
I
after
don't
you
want to
start
take too much
talking,
away.
I'll go. After you start talking, Randy, I'll go and look for the link because I can probably find it pretty
Okay.
quickly.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any book ideas, Randy?
Um.
Do you think you're going to be able to stay with us next session?
Yeah, I think so. I just need to get the book. As you know, traffic just plays
Okay.
a role, so I'll probably be showing up right at 6:30. But I should be able to
Okay.
be.
All right. I was just concerned about your energy level.
Okay.
But we can also talk about changing the day or time, because I have some flexibility. Okay, Joel, can we hear you now?
I didn't see
Or
Joel.
I don't even see him. His
Mm-mm.
No,
box is still there.
it's
Okay, so
not.
yeah, so he's going through something. Okay, Randy, well, let's go on and get into the discussion. Let me see.
Is Farrah still
You saw
coming? Or
Farah. Yeah, she's kind of splitting herself between another group that's going on here tonight
okay.
and our group. So, so I think she'll be up
Okay.
in a little while. And I also wanted to talk about um, limit our comments a little to, I don't know if we should say 3 minutes or 5 minutes, but uh, all of us here um, are very verbose. And
Okay.
um, I just want to be sure, especially as more people come into the group, that that everyone can have a chance to say something, and that we can get through as much as we can get through. We did 2 weeks on chapter 6 with Georgette, and we still didn't get to all the questions. And it's not that there were that many questions, really, right?
No, people had a
It's
lot to
just
say.
everybody had a speech to give on every question. So, so let's try to be more. I don't know what's the word, Benita. User friendly.
We just had a lot to say. We were testifying. We had testimonials for the last 2 weeks or something.
I know, and it's good, and it's cool, and I understand it. I'm a chief guilty party, but but we
Yeah,
know we live in a world where people have difficulty listening,
sure do.
and and the longer anyone talks, the harder it is to hold your attention, even if you're a good listener. So let's just act like we know. Um,
I've been listening to you, Michelle, for 40-something years. I'm a good
and
listener.
you're the only one that has.
Ooh,
No one else can stand me.
40-something years, Randy.
Okay.
That's a long time to listen.
I know.
All right. Okay. We're going to concentrate after we get our little thing going. Look at Georgia. She's so sweet. She's always ready. The only person that is. Okay.
Oh, not that's not true. I know the rest of you are ready too.
And she's so positive. I love her. Positive, Georgia.
And Vanita, what's happening with Clint? Is he still trying to join the group?
Actually, yes, he is. But Clint, of course, finished college in January or whatever date that was. And he works his full-time job. And he also works late sometimes. And other things, you know, go on. Like this evening, he's working late. He popped in about 4:30. You know, found the food that he could here, and he left to go back. The same thing yesterday. So it's, but the new job for the past couple of months, I think it's kind of, you know, pressing.
Okay, I was just asking because I know one of the book topics that he's interested in is relationships,
Yes.
and so I didn't, you know, I don't want to cut him out of the choice making if he's going to actually be able to join. But if he's not, then, you know, then we don't have to consider his wishes. So there's that.
Yeah, I'm running past him again. Probably not tonight, tomorrow. I don't know what time he's going to be in and see what it's.
Okay, and also let him know, you know, that I'm open to trying to find another day or time that people can meet. You know, because I've got some flexibility going on now, so, you know.
Yeah.
So, all right, Randie, back to you. I'm going to go look for the link to the downloads, but you can go ahead and get started, okay?
Okay. So I'll read the overview and then the first key point and then the first question so we can get started. So Chapter 7 focused on the civil rights marches implemented to end segregation, Governor Wallace's efforts to uphold white supremacy, and the hostility and violence of prominent white supremacist officers Bull Connor and James Clark of Alabama. This chapter discussed how the violence of the KKK and police brutality worked in civil rights activists and Black Americans' favors for their nonviolent stance compared to the beatings, arrests, and attacks they endured, captured the nation's attention, and demanded FBI protection. In Chapter 7, we also learn how congressmen and local police officers and KKK members twisted the mission and intention of the civil rights marches and made them out to be about sex and sex orgies instead of about ending the oppression of Jim Crow. This chapter also focuses on the death of Viola Liuzzo, a white woman who was killed by the KKK as they suspected her of interracial sexual relations with Leroy Moulton, a Black man. Chapter 7 followed the trial against Liuzzo's murderers and showed how tainting the victim's image and reputation and chastising her for not upholding racial and gender norms played a major role even for white women when it came to indicting murderers. Lastly, Chapter 7 focuses on the rape and abduction of Rosa Lee Coates, and in the end, the lifetime sentence Norman Cannon was given for his attack, and the Loving versus Virginia case where Mildred and Richard Loving were arrested and exiled from Virginia to Washington, D.C. for their marriage. Richard Loving was a white man and Mildred was a Black woman. Key points number 1. James Clark, the bellicose county sheriff who wore a never-integrate button pinned to his uniform, enforced white supremacy with an iron fist. The most polite request to enter the registrar's office for voting could set off Clark's notorious temper, prompting beatings, mass arrests, and other violent outbursts. Clark's primitive itch to attack Negroes, as Taylor Branch put it, drove him 30 miles outside Dallas County to Marion, Alabama on February 18, 1965, where Lopez planned the nighttime march. Clark stood among state troopers who amassed outside Zion Chapel Methodist Church, waiting for the 500 protesters inside to file out. When the doors to the chapel opened, police shot out the street lights, sprayed black paint on lenses of reporters' cameras, and charged into the crowd. Negroes could be heard screaming, the New York Times reported, and loud whacks rang through the square. Reaction to this graphic scene. Hello?
Yeah, I thought we lost sound with you. Go ahead. I got you back.
What was your initial reaction to this graphic scene? Some have said that MLK did not do anything, but it is evident in acts of violence like these that MLK's nonviolent stance worked in favor of African Americans' need for freedom and the end of Jim Crow. Do you believe it is still powerful to read and see images where white mob violence is met with black nonviolence?
I found it powerful to read that scene at Edmund Pettus Bridge, um, and you know, I was just saying to Benita last night that I am really so honored to be connected to the group of people that are here in the book group, because this has been a very difficult book to read. It's violent, 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 as is our history. But it is precisely because it is so painful that black people don't want to know our history, and white people don't want to know it either. And so we just keep going round and round and round in circles, not solving any problems because so many people are running from the basic facts. Because looking at the facts takes courage. Um, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. So yeah, I found reading about that whole history of the Selma to Montgomery march difficult.
Mm-hmm. Benita, you have anything?
No, actually I don't. I think Michelle has said it all. I'm thinking.
Georgette?
Well, yeah, I love how you phrase that, Michelle, about we don't have the courage to face the history of the very violent history, and we keep going around in circles. And part of that is not having the courage, but also not having inclusive educational systems. So
Hmm.
everyone is not afraid of the history. If you know what happened, then you can take steps to avoid repeating it.
Hmm.
And just seeing, the film clips of what happened during the marches and the police and turning loose dogs and fire hoses and against children are difficult images to see as well as read about, but they're necessary. Because we won't change. We'll think everything is just fine, or that history doesn't apply to us
Right.
in the present.
Joel, I appreciate your determination to join us tonight.
Oh, well, hey, it was
Can you hear
probably.
us?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah, it
Yes.
probably was operator error. So, But,
Okay.
but I finally got it.
Okay.
I was listening to a lot of some of the comments on YouTube. I could hear on YouTube, and then I came back. I had to reboot and stuff like that. I was trying to use another headphone. It wouldn't work, but
Okay. Okay.
So which part are you on right now?
We're on the first question, the first key point discussion,
Okay.
and Michelle just answered it, and Georgette kind of fed into it as well.
Okay.
Um, In terms of myself, Michelle, I do agree with you. With what you said, it was it is very difficult. Um, it really is. But this chapter, wasn't as difficult. And I think maybe because I had done the chapter early and didn't know that y'all were still on chapter 6. So I think it helped that I didn't have to reread it because I had already done the work for it. But I'm very makes me very empathetic, even to people who really try to avoid this because it is painful. And I understand that some days you got to choose your battles, and some days it's not history. Some days, it can't always be that way, but some days you have to decide what you're gonna struggle with. And so it just made me very empathetic. It made me very proud, and it wasn't though it was a difficult scene to read about. I was just very proud after I had read it. That we're black people are very resilient.
Yeah, and also, yeah, I think also in terms of your point about, people saying that King wasn't doing anything.
Mhm.
I mean, we continue to debate the value of nonviolent um, strategies, but I always wonder when people are proposing violence, um, how they imagine that working out for us. Um, in terms of this country, black people are um, in the minority. And just the sheer firepower that the state commands, it's pretty daunting. So, you hear me and Benita say all the time, we would not have survived living during slavery but that's true because we would be dead. We would have been killed. And what King was doing by promoting a nonviolent strategy. One of the books that's on the list, I think it's called This Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed. And it's talking about all of the guns that were a part of the civil rights movement that black people had. And there's a story about, if you walked into King's bedroom, some guy sat down, nearly sat down on a gun. That he certainly understood the need for self-defense, but what he was trying to do was keep the masses of black people alive. And, if you just, now, see, here I am going on and on. I said we weren't going to do speeches tonight, Joel. But I mean, but that's the thing, and I love Malcolm. I love Kwame Ture. I get it. But what King was doing was trying to keep black people alive, and maybe somebody should be thankful for that.
Well, as we discussed before, Michelle, I would have been one of those ones who would have been willing to die. Honest to God. And I can honestly say that I would have been willing to die because it was certainly no way to live. But I'm just one of those, Apache type, warrior type people. Must be the Indian coming out. I just think I'd have rather been dead. I probably did something crazy, and broke every rule and everything.
Did we lose you?
I can't hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you now. I couldn't hear
kind
you.
of a delay going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's.
I have a thing.
I mean, I appreciate. I'm losing you.
I have a.
I can hear you when you are speaking. It's just that it goes out. Maybe because of delay, as you said.
Okay.
That's my thoughts. It might have worked then also, but it definitely wouldn't work today. One question I do have, as black people, we are a minority, but we're not a minority if we couple ourselves as brown people as a whole. Power is in numbers. And in this country, last I checked, brown people all fall in the same category. Whether you're from here, whether you're from a continent, or whether you're from an island, you all fall in the same category. So if power is in numbers, if all the brown people were to get together, well, we would be the majority by a landslide, by millions.
That's how Obama was elected.
Because in this country, if you're not white, you are black. Whether you came from Venezuela, El Salvador, you can come from Jamaica, Panama, you can come from, the North Pole. If you're brown, you're black in this country. So, and too many times I hear in the division among the different brown people that come from other places that associate or try to disassociate themselves with black Americans. That's a whole different subject. We'll keep it moving. I'll just say that if all the brown people were to stand together, then we would be a force to be reckoned with. As a matter of fact, we couldn't be reckoned with. Okay. And of course, in the orderly, fashion, that is, not to just go out and lose your head, but to we couldn't be reckoned with. But again, that's another discussion. We'll keep it moving.
Michelle, do you want to read the second key discussion and the second question?
Okay. What's that? The Alabama State Legislature fired the opening salvo on March 23, 1965, by printing Act 159 in the Montgomery Advertiser. The act accused civil rights activists of leading the innocent people of Alabama into a den of corruption and sin. A few days later, William Dickinson, the freshman congressman from Alabama, denounced the marchers as perverts on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. Drunkenness and sex orgies were the order of the day, he fumed. Negro and white freedom marchers invaded a Negro church in Montgomery and engaged in an all-night session of debauchery within the church itself. When civil rights activists were not engaging in instances of public sexual intercourse, Dickinson proclaimed, they spent their time in a hotel in Montgomery engaged in group sex. Free love, the congressman continued, is not only condoned, it is encouraged. Only by the ultimate sex act with one of another color can they demonstrate they have no prejudice. Dickinson would only allow House members to view his proof privately, however, as it was too obscene for public showing. Question number 2. How outlandish were these claims of sexual orgies and fornication when it came to the civil rights marches? Do you agree with Virginia Durr's sentiment that all of the cesspool of sickness connected with sex guilt comes out of these stories? Segregationists' fear of interracial sex and corresponding paranoia came from the fact that while men of the South had had so many sexual affairs with black women, um, they would just turn it around. It's the only thing I can figure out that made them so crazy on the subject.
Anybody?
It's laughable. Michelle and I had a conversation last night pertaining to, I think, chapter, was it 6, Michelle? And what did I say?
What?
It's just, I don't know. It's just unbelievable, and you know, they weren't even. They could have been a little more colorful with what they came up with. You know, it's just laughable. It's just absolutely laughable. And the thing that he denounced it on the, what is that, state representatives on the floor. I mean, could you imagine if our government today in 2014, some pervert got up there and said, well, you know, I mean, I don't know. It just goes beyond my thinking. What do you think, Georgette?
Well, it was definitely hysterical. Hysteria.
Myself, but
you know, they're projecting. Well, I'm not sure that it was so much sexual guilt, because they did what they wanted to do. You know, they're projecting their not so secret sins, you know, that have been generational on other people, trying to scare, you know, these white, Anglo-Saxon Protestants, you know, into the what's the worst thing that could happen? They're coming to, you know, rape our women, you know, and you know, really imposing their views on everyone else. You know, if that's, you know, if you think everyone's coming to have sex, you know, here instead of what the real problem is, the real issue is, then you're the one who has the problem.
no, I just think folks put so much value on themselves. Really. Way too much value on themselves.
Okay.
You know. Ooh. Well, I guess we'll keep it moving.
The only thing I would say is, you know, it was the free love era. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we caught a little bit of that too, Benita.
Yes, we did. Don't tell all people business.
Huh?
Don't tell all people's business. You didn't hear that right.
I'm just saying.
You okay, Michelle?
Good girls. Yes. Okay.
I'm just saying that, you know, we do know from historical accounts that, you know, MLK, for example, you know, he had some affairs. Now, that's not to say that the things that he was accused of, like one of the things was they accused MLK and Abernathy and Bayard Rustin, the three men, of, you know, being in a sexual relationship. You know, most of what they feared was probably not true, but on the other hand, there may have been some aspects of truth. And I raise it because, you know, I was thinking about one of our other dialogues recently where we talked about, I think we were talking about the politics of respectability and the fact that no one, you were making the point, Vanita, that no one can live up to the politics of respectability these days. Um, and I was trying to make the point of, yes, but do we want to deal with the reality of who people are? People are never the saintly figures that we would like to make them out to be. And that includes Dr. King. So I would say, most of what the white folks were hurling at him were lies. Um, but at the same time, he was not a saint. Abernathy was not a saint. Bayard Rustin was not a saint. None of them were saints. And, yet they still did great things in the world. And, I think we have to just be realistic about who our leaders are. They're human beings.
Absolutely.
Joel, you're back?
Yeah.
You're having a hard time tonight.
Yeah, it just it dropped. I don't know why it dropped. Yeah, I was looking at the on number 2. Well, all of this is, when it comes to sex and the civil rights. Of course, anyone know anything by J. Edgar Hoover at that particular time, he used any type of tactic, being, if you know the history of J. Edgar Hoover and his sexual fetishes and perversion and whatnot, he used homosexualities, affairs, and anything that was seen as deviant behavior. He used all these tactics when it comes to any of the civil rights leaders, or keep going back to the respectability clause that would seem to be the thread and theme of this particular book, especially when we get to when you're talking about the young Caucasian lady that got killed, by the Klansmen. And these type of things that J. Edgar Hoover and the Klan, they always use the misinformation. You can go then and you can go now. Misinformation, bad information about someone's character. They basically assassinate the messenger, and that will keep everybody else at bay. People be more or less like, well, you know what? I'm not even going to get in that fight because it's not even worth it. I don't want my character or what I'm doing to be a point of contention for public display. And this was, and when they did this here, inside this guy, he was down on the Congress, on the floor talking about lies. And then in the chapter, it went on further. This guy, he just went and just, took pictures and put them in some magazine and sold it for money. Just a bunch of lies. But that is then, and let's look at now that they basically do the same thing, with anyone, whether it be a politician or anyone in some type of movement. They do the same thing. It's basically character assassination. Same playbook. You don't just change the date, and they'll do the same thing now with anyone.
What's so different than women that have been sexually abused? Character assassination, which is why a lot of women today still won't come forward. I don't care who you are. If someone touches your body without your permission, then it's wrong. And not to get off the subject, but it just refers back to the same character assassination that women, children that have been molested, men that have been molested, goes through the same thing. Did you want it? How many boyfriends you had since 1972? And, so this is the tactic they've always used, And who else could think of such freakish, twisted stuff except for freak itself? The apple don't fall far from the tree. You got to be pretty creative yourself to think of some of the stuff that they think of. Excuse me. I'll keep it moving. I'm done.
Okay.
Bridget, do you want to do key discussion 3 and then question 3?
Sure. Shuttling tired marchers back and forth from Montgomery to Selma on the night of March 25th, Liuzzo and Leroy Moten, a 19-year-old African American, knew they had to be on lookout for the hostile Klan members waiting to attack them on the dark and lonely stretches of Highway 80. What they didn't know was that a carload of Klan members, whipped into frenzy by the wild rumors of interracial sex, spotted them at a stoplight in Selma shortly before their final trip of the day. When they had gotten far enough out of town and into a desolate stretch of highway through Lowndes County, the car carrying the 4 Klan members overtook Liuzzo's vehicle. With their guns poking out of the rolled-down windows, the Klansmen fired into Liuzzo's speeding car, killing her instantly. With blood splattered all over Liuzzo and Moten, the Klansmen drove off, believing they had killed both passengers. Deeply shaken but alive, Moten crawled out of the car, flagged down a passing truck full of freedom marchers, and told them about the brutal murder. And the question for that point is, what did you make of the KKK members' trial? Did it shock you that Viola's character was put on the stand, though she was a white woman? What do you think of a fellow white woman stating, "I don't know why they kept calling Mrs. Liuzzo a mother of 5. A mother wouldn't have gone off and left her children and come here"? What do instances like this say about gender roles and white supremacy even now? To me, it is evident that white supremacy does not ensure the survival or justice of all whites, as long as it seeks power, and that women with children only have one role once they become mothers, and that is to be a caregiver and nothing else. What do you think?
Mhm. That that piece took me back to remember, Randy. I think it was you that asked a question about Dylan, the white guy that got like 20 years for raping someone. And I talked about how the judge was trying to use him as an example
Mm-hmm.
to let other white men know, this is not going to be tolerated. And so I saw this same kind of um, social pressure, I guess, in the way women reacted to Liuzzo's death. Um, by the respectability standards in the white community in that era, she had stepped outside the bounds, and so in order to send a message to other white women, because remember, thousands of young white people were pouring into the South during this era to help with the movement, and so I think in order to send a message to other white women that you will not be forgiven, you will not be understood, you will not be welcomed back into the white community with open arms after you have, fought white supremacy on behalf of black people. So.
Well, if I may, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the FBI, according to the book, FBI and J. Edgar Hoover, they had his informant that rode along with the Klansmen at that particular time. And so the FBI, it was ironic that the FBI was the one that started J. Edgar Hoover saw where everything was going, and he said, well, let's slander her, period. And that's what they started doing. And the Klan just basically fed off of it. So, they used the norms at that particular time. The woman should be in the house. No respectable mother would leave the 5 children behind. Down here with these freedom riders, and they having, all these orgies and things of that nature. So all of the respectability, the societal norms, and this woman actually being on the outside of societal norms at that particular time came into place. But I saw this, I'm going to be real brief, I saw, the KKK, I saw a documentary back in the 1920s that when it came to prohibition, they actually sped up integration and mixing of the races through prohibition, trying to keep everything as norm. So the harder they did this here, and the more they with white supremacy, the more that the races found they had in common. Thank you. Trying to keep it brief, y'all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Georgette?
Well, just a little bit. Yes, she stepped out of the boundaries there. That system of racial and social and gender control, and it made a fair game. And that goes on today. I think when you ask the question, what does that say about gender roles and white supremacy? Even now, when you see women who want to stand up for the different social issues or feminist issues or just world rights issues, you'll see them, if they get to a point where they're affecting too much change, something will come out, whether it's true or not, something about their personal life to knock them down or make whatever they have to say or the movement that they're involved with less effective, because we're really very prejudicial people. Who you appear to be is sometimes more important than than the good you're trying to do. We want you to look and be a certain way and be impeachable. So it's sad that this woman had to be made an example of, and other women said she's not a mother, and she had children, but she made a sacrifice to come down to help others because she wanted the world that her children grew up in to be better than what people were living in at that time. So that's all I have to say.
Well, even if I may, even when it came to Bernard Rustin, which Bernard Rustin was and you can't, when you were talking about, Martin Luther King, to slept with weapons, it was Bernard Rustin that went to him and told him, you can't talk about nonviolence, you can't talk about a movement when you got all these weapons and these bodyguards. You know what I mean? So, but he had to stay in the background because of his homosexuality. But he was really the catalyst before Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, and he had been standing up for people's rights, for a long time. And and everybody know about his behind the scenes when it came to the March on Washington, the organizing everything. But that was another way that they were going to use that you had alluded to, Madam, when it came to to Abernathy and Dr. King and Bernard Rustin, using sex during the civil rights.
That's right. What'd you think about it, Randie?
Well, like I said in my question, when it just made me, I always have to tell people, that, you know, when people argue, you know, racism isn't like real, or, you know, poverty discrepancies between black and whites aren't the same. You know, I always have to tell people white supremacy doesn't ensure that all white people are going to have it good. And you
Mhm.
know, some white people, they take one for the team. And this was just an example for me, to see that the way Viola's death was handled, as one of those prime examples, because she was a white
Mhm.
woman, and you know, white women are held on such a pedestal during this era, and still, and she was dragged through the dirt, much like black women were and are, and black men. And so to me, it just affirmed what I've been saying. And it was sad that her role as a mother was questioned as well, because like you said, Georgette, you know, she just wanted her children, I would assume, to grow up in a better world. And at the end of the day, how are you going to tell your children to be better, to do better, when you never showed them an example? So it's a shame that her trial went the way it did, but I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay,
Benita,
yeah.
Benita,
I
no.
have I have a different take on it myself. I don't believe that um, white men, which was the ones in power, put anybody on the pedestal other than themselves. You know, the difference between black women and white women is they were allowed to walk freely. But behind those closed doors, they were being sexually abused. They were being by their husbands, oppressed, banged up, banged down, and every other way. So I don't think it was because, you know, it was simply trying to send a message that we look at all women the same when you lay with them. It don't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think it's because they reverend white women so much. 'Cause I don't think they reverend anyone. I mean, even to the day, power by white men is power. They will kill their mother if they have to, in some cases. So I don't think it was about that. I really don't. Women in general were not respected. The difference between black women and white women is that black women, of course, you know, they didn't even look at us as human, much less women. They at least look at them
But
as
but
women sometimes.
but why is it that the white women were not supportive of her?
Because, you know, you're talking about the Bible Belt. That's the first thing. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm not in the day and they look at me and call me a Yankee. We're in 2014.
I'll be
You
right
know,
back.
and I'm not trying, and, you know, I'm really very serious about that. So I just think that it's a whole different mindset um, in the southern states then. And I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm from the East Coast, and it's a different way of thinking. I just think it was all about that, you know, Bible throwing, you know, make sure you make the St. John's to sit in the front
Well,
pew.
actually, I think that Ladies Home Journal did a national survey of women, and that's where they discovered that women around the country were not very supportive of Viola Liuzzo. You know, they felt like she had, you know, brought this on herself, kind of an attitude.
Well, that's sick.
Well, I think
Once again, I wouldn't have made it
I
because
you know,
I couldn't have
I,
ever turned. I, you know, my girl's standing for something good. I got her back. You know, so who are you talking to? The wrong woman. I wouldn't have made it because I'd be the only one. They probably killed me too for standing up for her. You know, I've been that one woman that said no, no, no. And I understand that. I just still do believe that when it comes to white male power, that's always been the question, and white male abuse of everyone else, you know, that they're really not exempt.
you know, I can really see where Benita is coming from with that. I do believe that all women in that particular area were being abused, and I always go back to a micro sense of how the world works. one must start abuse in their own family, and then as they get better at it, they get more emboldened. So as white supremacists, as they got more emboldened, they went outside of their house because they didn't have any barriers. So the white woman was abused. She just as not as much as the black woman, but she still was abused then and still now. And the statistics shows that across the country, and especially in the state of South Carolina, where South Carolina has more domestic violence among white women and white men in murders than any other state in the union. Not per capita, but by the numbers.
I think that Benita and Udo made a good point about white women in terms of when it comes to abuse and the oppression that they face. I do agree that it was the same in the household. We have read countless, we see countless narratives and articles about it all the time. But I don't want us to forget the power that white women also had in terms of implementing the type of violence black women endure and black men. In a lot of the lynching photos, you see white women standing right by the tree, smiling, pointing, laughing, seeing very distant, desensitized by these images. So while the abuse is the same, we all bleed red and bruise, purple or red, but at the end of the day, I do feel like white women, especially during this era, and even now, play a huge role in the constant disenfranchisement because men listen to their women, and I think that if it was the fact that we were all experiencing the same type of oppression and turmoil, the exact same, we wouldn't be going through it. I don't think. I think that white women are a lot more powerful than we know, especially on being a predominantly white campus. I was honestly more shaky of white women than white men. White men have the power, but in terms of like immediate power, but white women passivity, to me, it's just as violent. The non-action, the not speaking up, the pointing and laughing, to me is just as violent, and it has the same impact as immediate power that white men have. That's just in my opinion.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I have any empathy. I'm just, don't get me wrong. No, I'm just saying that, as far as white men are concerned, everything is more about power. I know white women were powerful. They, obviously, even now from what I see, they got a lot of power. But I still think at the end of the day, of course, we weren't even looked at as human, much less women. They might have banged them up, but at least they looked at them as a woman. We weren't even looked at as human and weren't even treated human. So, I'm not, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that I think white women at some point were just used as pawns. You understand what I'm saying? They were just, at some point, they got past the, the lily, virgin, whatever. It got more about, power over everybody. And if you lay with them, walk with them, talk with them, that's what's going to happen. We don't care about you either. So.
Randie, excuse me a minute. Joe, excuse me a minute. Randie, can I interrupt the agenda for a few minutes to introduce? Fair, I want us to move over a little bit more this way because we've got that noose hanging over our neck.
Oh, yes. Okay, it's part of an exhibit.
Yes. This is Fair Tanis. I'm so happy to introduce.
Greetings, everybody.
The
Hello,
Executive Director of Black Women's Blueprint.
Greetings.
And we've been trying to get her here.
I know. I'm so glad to be here.
So she is here. So Fair, what I really, I want you to say a few words about Black Women's Blueprint. I was just saying to the group that I'm so honored to know this group of people because we're on chapter 7 now.
Wow.
of a very difficult, violent book to read.
Yes, yes, yes.
And they have hung in there. You know, at one point I thought we might have worn Randie out because Randie was just like, oh, I don't know if I can take it. But it's a hard book.
It is.
And you know, and so this is why people don't want to know the history.
That's
because
right.
it's painful. So Farah has built an amazing healing community here in Brooklyn. And so I want her to talk a little bit about Black Women's Blueprint because really I think all these people should be members.
Absolutely.
But then Farah also read the book. She read it before we even started the group. And so this is going to be her only opportunity. So I want you to also
Able to meet you all. I can't hear, but I can see the faces, and there's so much being communicated through the faces. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for welcoming me, Michelle. And you know, I'm glad to have this opportunity to talk about Black Women's Blueprint. We're a national Black feminist organization. We started, you know, not like this with a lot of technology, but we started by meeting in our living rooms, our backyards, around kitchen tables, much like a lot of the Black feminist organizations and groups that our older sisters, our older feminist sisters started. And, you know, we started to look at the state of Black women in the United States. And we started to look at, you know, the national discourse around racial justice, right? And what was happening, what was being prioritized. And, you know, there was a lot of political things happening at that time, you know, mainly, you know, Obama and Clinton and the Democratic primaries and their conversations around creating a blueprint for, you know, healthcare for America, for American family, and so on and so forth. And we realized, you know, as there's this Black brother and this white woman, a white sister, talking about their blueprint and each offering their blueprint, one thing that was missing out of that conversation was us. And this was happening in the broader context of, you know, a political commentary and just this question, this national and even international question to Black women in America: are you voting your race or your gender? As if we could separate the two, right? And that is really at the center of Black feminism, right? The intersectionality, that you can't really separate your race from your gender and your sexuality and other identities that just make up who you are. And that to be fully human, you have to acknowledge all of those things, and all of those things have to be acknowledged, and you have to fight all of the oppressions. And so that is really the beginning, the seeds of Black Women's Blueprint. And ever since then, you know, we've been doing work in the community that is very steeped not only in the Black feminist ideology, but also in practice, but it's also been steeped in human rights. And so I think more than ever, the language of human rights, not as it's been created here in the U.S. or when the UN was founded in the 1940s, but really how we practiced it as indigenous people, as people from the African continent. Human rights is not a new concept just because it was, you know, it was codified here in the U.S. and, you know, with all of these power nations. But Black people, indigenous people, have been practicing treating each other as human beings for centuries. So really, it's something that's ours. It belongs to us. So Black Women's Blueprint itself practices healing. We practice prevention of violence. We practice the empowerment of women and girls in various ways, whether that be through economic justice, solidarity economy, through community organizing. We also practice advocacy, advocating on behalf of each other, truth-telling. We tell our stories. We tell our narratives, because when you infuse society and you infuse community with your own narrative, it shifts the current narrative that exists right now around Black folks and around women and and around black women. So we do a number of things, and all of those things, the underpinnings is the black feminist theory, black feminist practice, black feminist history, and human rights history, and human rights as we practice it today. So, and mainly we do it through our Truth Commission. So all of this encompasses the Truth Commission. In this room where we're sitting right now is our museum, which is another way of us telling our story. Behind me is a picture of Rosa Parks and Reese Taylor. That's the book, that's the subject of the book. So this is how we tell the story. For people who won't read the book, then we're going to put a picture of Rosa Parks. We're going to put a picture of Reese Taylor, and we're going to tell the story in that way. And you're going to come in and you're going to look at the images, and we get the opportunity to talk about what it meant for Rosa Parks to do the work that she did, and how we're inspired, and how all of us mobilizing and should be inspired in the same way. As far as the book is concerned, when I first read At the Dark End of the Street, my first thought was, Bell Hooks has talked about this issue of the exploitation of black women's bodies and the issue of the thingification of black women's bodies and sexuality, the framing of black female sexuality. Bell Hooks has talked about it. Patricia Hill Collins has talked about it. Sexual politics. Guy Sheftall and Janetta B. Cole have talked about it in Gender Talk, the fight for gender equality in African American communities. Gloria T. Hall talks about it in Aren't I a Woman, which was sort of another, spin or another just historical account. It sort of follows in the tradition of Bell Hooks' book, Ain't I a Woman? And they speak the same truth that Danielle McGuire speaks, but there is no credit that I could see in the book given to these feminist sisters and foremothers who've talked about what black women have endured at the hands of white America during the Jim Crow era. And there was no credit. There was not even any reference to a consultation with a lot of these women. And to me, that really struck me about the writing of the book. And I almost felt offended. In fact, yes, I was offended. And I really wondered about that. And I said, for people who, because of Danielle McGuire's white privilege, will pick up a book written by a white woman, for whatever reason, maybe because of curiosity, will pick up her book and then feel like, oh wow, look, this white woman is telling our story. A lot of people don't realize that these are stories that have been told. They've already been told. They don't know.
She says she is rewriting
yes.
civil rights history.
Exactly. And that is inaccurate.
I can't hear you.
It is inaccurate.
I can't see you.
The book, it.
Okay.
Can you tell?
Mhm.
Can you tell?
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now.
you're back.
Now.
Yeah.
They were hearing.
Were you hearing Farrah?
I didn't hear the last maybe 30 seconds or more of what she said.
What?
Really?
Why
Yes.
The video went away.
Say something.
What happened, Randy?
The video went away. It was just the profile of Black Women's Blueprints, the little picture. It was just showing that.
How long?
For like 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Well, I hope
Okay,
they heard
You heard Farrah talking about BWB?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the book? What about the book?
We heard
Okay,
everything.
Okay.
So, I don't know how everyone else, felt about the book, because, it does give, some great historical accounts. But that was very voyeuristic. It sort of invites us. There's a way in the style of the writing that she doesn't come off as a historian, and she doesn't even come off as a feminist. She really, or a womanist, or someone who's you know, an anti-racist. She really, I mean, even though she talks about race and talks about race in a way that a lot of white people won't and haven't, I think that was something that was missing from the book. But I do want to give her credit for her ability to hold all of that information and to gain access to it.
This started out as her dissertation, so she rewrote it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. For general consumption.
Right. It was a little bit. Some of it was a little bit sensationalist, but it was an extremely the history, the access that she had to that information is something that community needed to have access to. And so in that sense, I am glad that the book exists and the information has been invaluable.
Let me have everybody introduce yourself and tell us where you are. Maybe say a word or so about how you're feeling about the book. Let's start with Randie. She's moderating tonight.
Hi, Farrah.
Hi,
It's
Randie.
so good to have you finally here. So, I am moderating tonight. Everybody knows I'm moderating from Atlanta. My initial thoughts on the book, I told Michelle when we first started that I hadn't ever heard of this book before or this history. Michelle Farrah, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because your video was frozen. I wasn't sure. But I told Michelle that I hadn't heard of the history before. I never knew that Rosa Parks investigated rape. I never knew that she advocated for women. The only history I knew about her was that she had sparked the bus boycott. That was it. And even that was, as I found out through reading the book, was not the whole story. So in that sense, I am thankful for the book, and I do understand what you feel about it, Farrah. But I do like how much research she did do, because at the back of the book she has all her sources, so we can go and we can do our own analysis and look. And I do appreciate that she did at least provide the sources
Yes.
So that's my overall thought of the book.
Benita,
Yes.
are you awake?
I'm just.
Who are you? And where are you?
I'm just listening and thinking about how I felt about the book. Not much. I've read many books. They give a somewhat historical account of what has happened to not just black women, but as black people as a whole. And I think she did the best she could with what she had, but no one could ever tell a story like us anyway. So that was never my expectation. You know, I took it for what it was worth. And we all have different values on different things. And I'm not one to put a high value on too much. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's informative for those that aren't aware. You know, so in that sense, it's a good thing. But, you know, no one can ever tell a story like a black author. No one can ever tell a story like we can. So that wasn't my expectation. And it's so nice to see you, and so nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you all too. I saw some of the videos, and you know, it's really nice to meet you.
This is Benita Goins-Walker. She's up in Connecticut.
Oh,
And Benita is my oldest friend. We've been friends since junior high.
Oh, wow.
And I've been here for a while now. It's a very different place. I was born and raised in Philadelphia a lot of my life, most of it actually. And then I moved to New Jersey. But yeah, I'm in Connecticut, and it is a very different place. It's not New York, not Philadelphia. It's not any place that I've ever known, actually. But you know, the trees.
Not...
No, you know, nice trees. You know, flowers aesthetically, it's cool. And that's why Michelle and I talk to each other, so I can have some food for my soul. Yes.
All right, we're being brief tonight.
I'm done.
Georgette, who are you?
Okay. Okay. Hi. How are you? I'm
Good. Thank
good.
you.
Good. I'm Georgette Moses. I'm coming to you from down here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I am one of those damn Yankees, okay? 'Cause I'm originally from New Jersey. But
Oh, no.
but I just want to say that after you describe the work of your organization, I just think that's really beautiful. And I don't know, but I wish we had something down here like that because I believe it's really needed. But to keep it brief, my first impressions of the book, well, when I joined the book group, I had to re-look at the title of the book and really try to absorb, okay, what am I getting myself into? And what are these facts, that the author is getting ready to expose? How is that going to affect how I feel about my world and my past? So,
Right.
but on a positive note, what it did do was inspire me to go look for testimonies of women of color to get other perspectives rather than just and the book is not really clinical, but and I like your word sensationalist. There's a lot of that in here too, but I think this was a good book to open the door to further exploration. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yes. I agree. Yes.
And we have, Joel, are you there?
Hi, Joel.
He's
What happened?
been going in and out
Hey, how
all
you doing?
night.
Nice to meet you.
Where are you,
Yeah.
Joel?
It's nice to meet you.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Joel?
In Charleston, South Carolina. Now? Hello?
We're
Yeah.
here. We're here.
We're here. There's a little delay with you, but we hear you. He's been freezing all night. Can you hear him, Randie?
No, not anymore.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'm
now
coming
he's back.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know, Joel.
Yes.
Yeah,
We hear you.
we hear you. Are you talking?
He's frozen.
You got me now? Good.
Yeah.
I'm coming. Yes, I am. I'm coming from Charleston, South Carolina, originally from North Carolina.
Okay. I'm gonna cut you off, Joe, because there's quite a delay coming from you tonight. We go through various technical issues. Farrah, we're always.
I know. It's okay.
We're always having technical.
Technology is
Yeah.
not what they promised us.
No. Does anybody want to ask? You have time for some questions, or?
Oh, I mean, sure.
Anybody have any questions?
I wasn't expecting questions.
I've got the camera on you, Randie.
It's not necessary. But if you do have any questions, I'd be happy.
Oh, Farrah, I heard you have an Essence interview.
Yes, I did. It was.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, we had an Essence interview, and what we focused on was the issue of economic security, as I talked about earlier, and just talking about the relationship between violence and economic security, and just really the ability that we have to support each other through economic solidarity. So a barter network, a people's bank, whatever it is that we can offer to each other, whether that is clothing in exchange for a service or time, or carpooling in exchange for meals throughout the weekend, or babysitting. I mean, these are ways that we can build community and we can build trust amongst each other, and it's ways that we can save money. So we do it very informally here, but we do it. A lot of us barter space for, oils that people make, or herbal tinctures that people make, or, so that's what the interview was about. They're very interested in that because poverty is really kicking our butts, and we are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we need to figure out ways to support each other and to help each other, even when we don't. I mean, we don't all have a lot, but what we do have, if we can offer it, I think that can create a whole new type of community and a whole new way of relating to each other. So that's what the interview was about.
Randie, why don't we go back to the agenda and let Farah experience our book group?
Okay, you wanna well, it's 7:56.
Now I can't hear you.
It's 7:56. You wanna just do one more question?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's late.
Okay.
So we'll do. So you wanna do one more question?
No, because we pretty much started on time tonight.
Yeah.
So I don't want to belabor it. But there was something else. Let me just look at the agenda for a minute. Where do I have it? I don't know. Randie, do you have the? No, I have it. This is it. Okay. So Randie, I did repost the link for the list of books on both Google and Facebook.
Okay.
So if everybody could get me their ideas within the next few days, I want to set up like a Survey Monkey or something so that we can have the vote done before next Tuesday. So far, I have Georgette's the only one that was prepared with ideas for tonight, and one of her books was Medical Apartheid, which I that one. And there's this other book that looks really good too. It's called Silencing the Past, and it's about So I chose this book. I don't want to choose the next book, but if you all don't give me your suggestions, then I guess Georgette is going to choose the next book.
No, come on. Everybody will submit some suggestions. I'm sure.
So yeah, but really, I would like us to be able to vote before next Tuesday, so that we come to that meeting knowing, where we're going from there. And I'm going to moderate next week's session, and that will be the last one for this book. So that's all I have. Any other comments, anybody?
That's it.
It's good to see you, Farah.
Huh?
I said it's good to see you, Farah. We've been waiting for 7 chapters.
Good to see you. Yeah, it's too bad I didn't get to see you in Atlanta.
I know. I'll be in Brooklyn though, on the 29th.
Oh, okay. 29th this month?
August 29th?
Of August.
Okay. All right.
Wonderful.
I'll be here.
So I'll be there.
All right.
Okay.
Nice meeting you all.
Okay, good night, y'all.
Okay,
Bye.
Nice to meet you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
I'll talk to you later, Randy.
Okay, bye, Benita.
Bye.
Bye,
Have a good
Georgia.
night.
All right.
Good
See
night,
y'all
all.
later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye.